But first, it is time for the hot topic of the hour, a major win for the Trump administration. The Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals ruling that the National Guard can deploy to Portland, Oregon. Portland authorities are turning to Oregon's complex zoning and land use laws to fight ICE. The New York Times writing this. In the city's fight against the Trump administration, those land use rules may prove to be a not-so-secret weapon, in large part because the Immigration and Customs Enforcement facility in Portland may be uniquely vulnerable to the codes. Now, the state of Illinois is still fighting the Trump administration's crime crackdown, demanding the Supreme Court reject a request by the administration to deploy hundreds of National Guard troops to Chicago. Roughly 200 members of the Texas force are in Illinois already, but they're being held at a facility that's about 50 miles southwest of the Democrat-run city after a federal judge blocked that deployment. Now, Chicago residents are also protesting ICE. One man that was at the No Kings rally going viral for what he said about ICE agents. Watch this.
You gotta grab a gun. We gotta turn around the guns on this fascist system. These ICE agents gotta get shot and wiped out. The state machinery, that's a full display right there, has to get wiped out.
Well, despite any pushback, the Trump administration is on pace to shatter deportation records by the end of their first year, deporting more than 550,000 illegal migrants so far. Caroline Downey, your reaction to all of this?
Well, I'm thinking also about Chicago, like you just mentioned, and how Brandon Johnson declared parts of the city ICE-free zones. It's like it doesn't work like that. If you riot, if you protest, if you obstruct ICE, then Trump has justification to send the National Guard, which is what he's done. You've given him an excuse now to send and deploy the National Guard. And Brandon Johnson, Pritzker, also in Illinois, and then in Portland, all of these blue state cities and governors, what they're saying is that, Trump has declared war on our localities, on our jurisdictions. And it's like, once again, I don't think detaining illegal criminal aliens that have horrible offenses on their rap sheets is hostile to U.S. citizens. I actually think they will welcome this, the fact that these people who are pedophiles, who are rapists, who have murder on their records, they will be removed from the community. That's a plus, right? But even aside from all of that, fundamentally, as president, Trump has constitutional authority to protect federal assets and federal property. That's exactly what he's done in all of these Democratic areas.
And that's the win that he got from the Ninth Circuit. At the same time, you mentioned community, and I think that's an interesting word here, Ryan, to use, because the community, in particular, if you're looking at Chicago, that is small businesses, that is quality of life. And if you don't have a safe community, you don't have an economic community to go home to. And that story is getting missed, I think, by the leadership there.
It is interesting. In San Francisco, Mark Benioff, who's the biggest employer of Salesforce in San Francisco, said, bring in, the National Guard. That'd be great. And then all the A-listers out there shunned Mark Benioff. And then a couple days later said, wait a second, don't bring them in. But if you look at, he had his Dreamforce there. The last 3 years, he had to bring in extra security because the police force didn't have enough law enforcement officers. So clearly the businesses, to your point, I'm very sensitive to that, being in the business community is a big deal because that's who really suffers. And that's what keeps these cities moving, is business, actually being there and not leaving.
Yeah, I talked about on the program, I talked about Benioff's comments and the fact that he, yes, for Dreamforce in particular, he's going out, he's having to hire all the security to have it in San Francisco. It's the biggest event of the year. It's a multi-million-dollar boost to the city of San Francisco. Why wouldn't you want to have conferences and economic activity come back to your city? At least they've got a new mayor in San Francisco, which is helping a little bit. Now, politics and sports, we try not to mix those things, or at least I do, but here we go. The San Jose Sharks hockey team has had to apologize for a pro-ICE message that appeared on screen at the team's arena during their game on Saturday. Now, the organization was celebrating Hispanic Heritage Night. Here's the message. It said, SJ Sharks fans love ICE. Get 'em, boys. Well, the franchise had to post this to X. An offensively worded message had been externally submitted. It was inadvertently displayed on the in-arena scoreboard. Shark Sports Entertainment deeply regrets the message, which does not meet our organization's values. It was not detected during our standard review process. The Sharks organization sincerely apologizes for the oversight. We're actively working to determine the origin of the message. Ryan.
Like, come on here. This is unbelievable that this is getting censored now. They had to do an apology. Like, where are we getting to when that's the case at this point? You can't support these officers that are going to these cities, and we know that a lot of times they go into these cities and they're getting harassed by the public. It's a bad message to send.
Yeah, surprising, Caroline, too, that message even got through. You would think they would.
I know.
Yeah, they weren't happy that they missed that one on the screening process. Yeah.
Right, and you could argue that this is an inappropriate venue for such a message, but if you believe that the Trump administration's deportations are fair and justified, then no venue is off limits. Technically, nothing is off limits. I also think the organization's reaction to grovel and apologize is embarrassing, because under no circumstances should you be apologizing for what is the enforcement of federal law at the end of the day. That's what they're advocating for, the enforcement of federal law. And you can argue that the organization might even be undercutting federal law enforcement by saying, oh, sorry, we didn't mean for this message to appear.
So you're not buying the story, is what you're saying from the Sharks.
Not really.
The
really.
skeptical journalist has arrived this morning on Mornings with Maria. All right, well, we're just getting started this morning. Coming up.